Welcome back to Books to Riches. This time, we're taking a deep dive into Live Below Your Means, The Art of Living with Very Little Money by Micah Coulter. This book is kind of unique. It's about, serious frugality. But what makes it different is the author. You see, Micah used to be homeless, so he's coming at this whole financial freedom thing from, well, a pretty unique angle.
Right. It's not your typical millionaire mindset kind of advice. Micah really digs into what it means to live with very little and how to actually find happiness without relying on material stuff.
That's pretty intriguing. I mean, most personal finance gurus are all about abundance and manifesting wealth, but this is about, embracing less.
It is. He flips the script completely. It's about recognizing that true wealth isn't about how much you own. It's about how little you actually need.
Okay, that's a pretty powerful concept. I think, in today's society, it's so easy to get caught up in that whole consumerism spiral, like always wanting more, bigger, better. So how does Micah, how does he suggest we even begin to shift our mindset?
He actually tells this story about his grandfather. His grandfather always told him to live below your means. And Micah admits, it took him a while to really grasp what that meant. But once it clicked, it became the bedrock of his entire financial philosophy.
Live below your means. Sounds simple enough, right? But I gotta admit, sometimes it feels like everything's getting more and more expensive.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin to put that principle into practice?
Well, he starts with the basics, budgeting. It's about meticulously tracking every single expense, no matter how small it seems. Because really, you can't save if you have no idea where your money is going.
I think a lot of people, myself included, gotta shy away from budgeting because it seems, restrictive, maybe even a little scary.
I get that. It's easy to think of it as deprivation,
Yeah.
But actually, it's more about conscious spending. Once you see where your money's actually going, you can make deliberate choices about where to cut back.
So it's not about giving up everything you enjoy. It's about being intentional with your spending.
Exactly. You might be surprised once you start paying attention how much money goes towards things that, don't really bring you much joy.
True. Those little impulse buys can definitely add up. So we've got budgeting. What are some other, practical steps Micah recommends?
He talks a lot about bad habits. Think about it, those daily lattes, that pack of cigarettes, even that extra glass of wine at dinner. He challenges you to calculate the real cost of those little indulgences.
Oh, I see where this is going. It's about seeing the bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
How those seemingly small expenses can actually drain your bank account over time.
Exactly. It can be pretty shocking to see, how much those daily habits actually cost you over a month or even a year.
Okay, so we're being mindful of our spending, cutting back where we can.
Yeah.
But what about the actual saving part? Any advice on that front?
Mike is a big believer in consistency. He stresses the power of saving even small amounts, but regularly from each paycheck. It's not about finding some huge chunk of money to stash away. It's about building that habit.
So it's about building a system, a sustainable approach, rather than relying on, windfalls or bonuses.
Exactly. He believes those small, consistent contributions can snowball over time, creating a significant nest egg in the long run.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What are some specific areas where Micah suggests we can start saving? I mean, food's a big one for most people. Any tips on how to keep grocery costs down?
He has this whole system for grocery shopping on a tight budget. One of the key principles is making a very detailed list and sticking to it. No impulse purchases allowed.
That's a classic, but it's so easy to get sidetracked in the grocery store. Speaking of temptation, does Micah ever address, those strategically placed treats at the checkout?
He talks about avoiding those tempting aisles altogether. He actually suggests sticking to the perimeter of the store where the, fresh produce and staples are, and only venturing into the inner aisles if you have a specific item on your list.
Oh, that's a good strategy. I'm also curious about his thoughts on deals and discounts. Does he advocate for couponing or bargain hunting?
He does. He even suggests using a calculator while you're shopping to make sure you stay within your budget.
Wow, that's dedication. I also noticed he mentions seeking out deals at dollar stores and salvage stores. Have you ever shopped at those places?
I have. You can actually find some decent stuff there, especially for pantry staples or cleaning supplies.
Okay, so dollar stores and salvage stores. Got it.
Yep.
I'm also intrigued by his suggestion to learn about foraging for wild edibles. What are your thoughts on that?
Now, he's definitely cautious about that one.
Yeah.
He emphasizes that you need to be absolutely certain about what you're picking. Misidentifying plants can be, pretty dangerous.
Right. Foraging can be a great way to connect with nature and, potentially save some money, but it definitely requires a lot of knowledge and caution.
Totally. He's not advocating for everyone to go out and start picking random mushrooms.
Okay, so maybe foraging is not for everyone.
Yeah.
But what about, like, the cooking part? Any tips for those of us who might not be culinary masters?
He actually includes a bunch of recipes in the book. They all focus on simple, affordable ingredients and creative ways to, like, stretch meals.
Okay, give us a taste. What kind of dishes are we talking about here?
One that caught my eye is his frugal chicken soup. It uses, like, one chicken breast, a potato, carrot, onion, and some celery. It's all about making a hearty meal with very few ingredients.
That sounds pretty delicious
Yeah.
and budget-friendly, too. Any other recipe highlights?
Let's see, he's got a frugal pizza that uses canned biscuits for the crust. It's all about thinking outside the box and using affordable alternatives.
I love that. Those recipes actually sound pretty fun to try.
Mm.
All right, so we've covered food. What about personal hygiene? I hear Micah has some pretty unconventional ideas in that department.
He does. This is where things get a little interesting. He actually suggests showering without soap.
Wait, what? No soap at all? I'm not sure I'm ready for that one.
Well, he argues that soap strips away your skin's natural oils and can be quite drying, and that water alone is sufficient to rinse away, dirt and bacteria.
That's definitely a different approach. But does he offer any, scientific backing for that?
He mentions that some dermatologists believe that using too much soap can disrupt the skin's natural microbiome, so there's some truth to that.
Interesting. It definitely challenges our, ingrained habits. All right, so showering without soap, that might be a bit extreme for some. But does he have any other hygiene tips that are a little more mainstream?
He does. He talks about sharpening disposable razors to make them last longer, cleaning toothbrushes with boiling water instead of buying new ones, and get this, even sharing unscented deodorant with a partner.
Okay, some of those are pretty practical. Others are definitely pushing the boundaries. It seems like Micah really encourages, thinking outside the box when it comes to saving money.
Absolutely. And that DIY spirit extends to cleaning supplies, too. He's got a whole section on making your own cleaners using simple ingredients you probably already have at home.
Okay, that's something I definitely want to explore more. Let's dive into those DIY cleaning recipes in the next part of our deep dive. Okay, we're back and ready to tackle Micah's DIY cleaning recipes. I'm actually kind of curious about this. Those store-bought cleaners, they can be expensive and full of chemicals, too.
Right. And Micah is all about simplicity and natural solutions. He's got recipes for pretty much everything. Laundry detergent, fabric softener, glass cleaner, all-purpose cleaner, even wood polish.
Well, he's got it all covered. But do these homemade cleaners actually work? Or is this, just a gimmick?
He claims they're just as good, even better in some cases. A lot of the ingredients he uses are, tried and true. Baking soda, vinegar, they've been used for cleaning for, forever.
That's true. And they're definitely gentler on the environment. So it's a win-win, right? Saving money and being eco-friendly.
Exactly. Okay, so cleaning supplies, check. What else? We haven't even touched on clothing, housing, all those big expenses.
Right. What does Micah say about clothes? It's so tempting to just buy new stuff all the time.
He's got a pretty simple philosophy. Wear it till it falls apart. And buying used whenever possible. Like he says, outerwear, shirts, pants, dresses, those can all be bought secondhand.
But what about underwear and socks?
Those he recommends buying new. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Okay, clothing, check. Now, housing, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice does he offer there? Rent's going up everywhere.
He talks about some pretty unconventional options, like living in a vehicle. He actually did that for over a year, lived in his car.
Wow. Really? He actually lived in his car. That's pretty hardcore. What was his reasoning behind that?
He talks about the freedom it gave him, not being tied down to a lease or a mortgage. But he's also honest about the challenges, like finding safe places to park overnight.
Yeah, I can imagine. That takes a lot of resourcefulness and planning.
Yeah.
Speaking of unconventional, what about home security? Any tips there?
He recommends a single shotgun for home defense. Says it's the most practical and affordable option.
Whoa, hold on. A shotgun? That's a bit intense, don't you think?
It might not be for everyone, but he argues that, it's a deterrent, and it's relatively inexpensive compared to other security measures.
I guess I see his point, but I'm not sure I'm personally comfortable with having a firearm in my home. Does he offer any alternatives?
He does. He talks about things like pepper spray, reinforcing doors and windows, even putting up those security system signs, even if you don't actually have a system.
Okay, those sound a lot more my speed. All right, moving on from home security. What about furniture? Any tips on how to furnish a home, without spending a fortune?
His top recommendation, get it for free. Check online classifieds, look for giveaways, even consider, cautiously stuff that people are giving away for free. You never know what treasures you might find.
Okay, I'm all for saving money, but I'm not sure I'm ready to go, dumpster diving for furniture. What about buying new? Does he have any advice for that?
He actually advises against renting furniture, says it ends up costing way more in the long run. He recommends buying basic, functional pieces, focusing on quality and durability over trendy designs.
So it's about investing in pieces that will last rather than following, fleeting trends.
Exactly. And that kind of thinking applies to other areas too, like transportation and entertainment.
Let's talk about those. Transportation, gas prices are crazy these days. What does Micah suggest?
He's a big advocate for walking and biking, whenever possible. Also carpooling, public transport, all those things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Not only does it save money, but it's also good for the environment.
Right. It's a win-win. Now, entertainment. How do we have fun without breaking the bank?
Right, that's a good question.
Well, he says ditch those expensive cable packages, get an antenna for your TV, take advantage of free stuff like libraries, parks, all those kind of things.
That's a good reminder. There's so much you can do for free if you just, look around. What about hobbies? Does he recommend any specific hobbies that are, both enjoyable and budget-friendly?
He's big on gardening, reading, exercising, being out in nature, all those things that, don't require a lot of spending.
It's about finding those simple pleasures, right?
Yeah.
Connecting with nature, being creative. But, thinking practically, what about healthcare? That could be a huge expense, especially, in the U.S. Does Micah address that at all?
He does. He emphasizes the importance of preventative care. Simple things like washing your hands regularly, using hand sanitizer. He even talks about making your own hand sanitizer.
Well, he really is committed to the DIY approach. But, does he go beyond just, basic hygiene?
Oh, yeah. He's all about a healthy diet, avoiding processed foods, sugar, fast food, all that stuff. He stresses the importance of eating whole foods, fruits, vegetables, the good stuff.
So back to the basics of good nutrition. What about exercise? Does he recommend, expensive gym memberships?
Nope. He's all about working out at home or outdoors, body weight exercises, using everyday objects as weights, getting creative with your workouts.
I like that. It's about finding ways to move and stay active without, spending a ton of money.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Food, clothing, housing, health, even entertainment.
I'm curious, does Micah ever talk about, generating income, side hustles, passive income, those kind of things?
He does touch on it briefly, but his main focus is definitely on reducing expenses and simplifying your life. He kind of sees it as the foundation for financial freedom.
That's an interesting perspective. It's about getting your spending under control first before you even start thinking about earning more. But does he acknowledge that, his approach might not be for everyone?
He does. He understands that some people might find his advice, a little too extreme or unconventional. So he has a whole section on what he calls frugal troubleshooting, offering alternatives for those who aren't willing to go all in. So it's not about blindly following his rules. It's about taking his principles and adapting them to your own life and circumstances.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you, what level of frugality feels, comfortable and sustainable.
This has been a whirlwind tour of Micah's frugal living strategies.
Yeah.
We've covered everything from, showering without soap to defending your home with a shotgun. But underneath all those unconventional tips, there's a really powerful message about empowerment and self-reliance.
Right. It's about taking control of your finances, being resourceful, and finding solutions that fit your own unique situation.
As we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious, what stands out to you as the most compelling takeaway from the book?
For me, it's the whole idea of shifting your mindset. It's not just about saving money. It's about redefining your relationship with money and finding happiness in experiences rather than material things.
That's a really powerful message, especially in a world where we're constantly bombarded with messages about, buying more stuff.
Right. Micah challenges us to step back and question those messages, to ask ourselves, what truly matters?
It's an invitation to simplify our lives and to focus on what truly brings us joy. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Live Below Your Means. This book has really got me thinking about, like, what it truly means to be financially free.
Yeah, it's definitely a different perspective than what we usually hear. All those get-rich-quick schemes and promises of overnight wealth. Micah's approach is much more grounded, more about, like, finding contentment and making conscious choices.
Right. It's not about, chasing some arbitrary number in your bank account. It's about creating a life that feels, you know, authentic and aligned with your values.
Exactly. And I think Micah's personal story really adds to that. He's been there, he's experienced those financial struggles firsthand. So his advice comes from a place of, like, real understanding and empathy.
It's definitely inspiring. He shows us that it's possible to, overcome challenges and find happiness even when things are tough.
Yeah.
And that financial freedom isn't, a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Totally. It looks different for everyone. It's not about, having a mansion and a fancy car. It's about having the freedom to make choices that are right for you.
So as we wrap up our exploration of live below your means, I'm kind of left with this feeling of, like, hope and possibility. Some of Micah's suggestions might be a bit extreme for some, like
Yeah.
that whole showering without soap thing. But his core message, that you can find freedom through mindful spending and being resourceful, that's something we can all apply in our own way.
Absolutely. Whether it's downsizing your home, cutting back on unnecessary expenses, or just finding more joy in those simple, everyday things, there are so many ways to embrace a more, like, intentional and fulfilling lifestyle.
So for those listening who might be, struggling financially or just looking for a different way to approach money, what would you say is the most important first step?
I'd say start by becoming more aware of your spending habits. Like, track where your money's going, identify those areas where you can cut back, create a budget that actually reflects your values and your goals.
It's about taking control, right?
Yeah.
Not letting your finances control you.
Exactly. And remember, financial freedom is a journey, not a destination. It's about those small, consistent changes that, over time, can make a big difference.
Well said. This has been such a fascinating conversation. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into Micah Coulter's Live Below Your Means.
It's been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, remember, keep seeking those books that lead to riches.